And then the next factor that affects pasture is topography. Pasture is better distributed on flat or undulating plains, since slopes are subject to erosion. That is, if we're having a slopy area, the erosion will reduce, or we hamper, or we affect the productivity and distribution of pasture. Then the shrubs and weeds. This competes for space, nutrient, moisture, and air in the soil, or air in general. Large shrubs tend to shade off herbage from sunlight, causing poor distribution. That is, if you have shrubs and weeds on the pasture, the production and distribution will be hampered, that is, to be reduced. So, in order to correct this, we have to clear the shrubs and the weeds. Then bush burning. Annual bush burning encourages early growth and then regeneration. However, uncontrolled burning may destroy the pasture. Then the next factor that affects pasture productivity and distribution is overgrazing. Excessive grazing of pasture leads to uprooting of herbage and trampling of the soil, thereby causing erosion. The next factor is grass and legume mixture. A good grass and legume ratio ensure complete soil cover and then balanced grazing. Then what are the establishment of the pasture? That is, what do we have to consider when establishing pasture? Land preparation involves, the first one is land preparation, which involves the plowing and harrowing to produce the fine tools, especially if seeds are to be used for propagation. Then the land is then fertilized and cover crops are sown, which are later dug into the soil, that is for green manuring. Planting is done at the beginning of the rainy season in row or drills, with a spacing of 15 cm to 45 cm apart, depending on the species. Seed may also be broadcasted, that is, after we've done our land preparation, then we plant the seed. Then the pasture is weeded and it's ready for grazing, that is, we weed it, remove unwanted plants on the pasture. And we might also have to irrigate the pasture and then add fertilizer in establishing the pasture. Now, what are the management practices of pasture? Some common management practice in pasture is to ensure continuous supply of grasses and legumes to livestock are the following. That is, some of the management practice in their pasture, which is to ensure continuous supply of grasses and legumes to livestock, are the following. The first one, we have rotational grazing. Animals tend to select the most palatable habitat first. This causes excessive grazing of some species, which invariably lead to loss of regenerative power or death of such of the pasture or such forage crop. This can be prevented by fencing up the pasture into plots. That is, you divide your pasture into plots of land, and then the animals are rotated between the plots. That is, if this class is our pasture, we can divide it into 4. If the animals are to feed in plot A for the first month, we allow the animals to feed on the first plot in the first week of the month. Then the following week, we move to the plot 2. The third week, we move to plot 3. While plot 1 is regenerating. Then the fourth week, we move to plot 4. Before we move back to plot 1, then the pasture, the forage crops will have regenerated in plot 1. Then the second management practice is burning. Burning should be done once in a year, especially when the forage crops are over matured and fibrous. This is to encourage the growth of the grasses and legumes. Then the next one is preceding. Where plant population has decreased appreciably. Now, this is when the plant population has decreased appreciably. Seeds may be broadcast at the beginning of the rainy season. That is, we receive so that we can have new forage crops. Then adequate stocking. That is, the correct number of animals should be placed on a pasture to graze in order to prevent overgrazing. That is, when you are to stock your animals, you don't bring maybe plot the first plot A can only accommodate maybe 50 cows. You don't bring 100 cows, no. You only bring 50, then maximum number must be 50. Then we have deferred grazing. Following overgrazing of a pasture, it might be necessary to close or restrict the pasture to animals until it has regenerated. That is just like our plot 1, while they are feeding on plot 2 and 3. On plot 2 in week 2, you restrict plot 1, that is, there will be deferred grazing in plot 1 during the period during week 2, while the animals are feeding on plot 2, and while they are in week 3, while the animals are feeding on plot 3, there will be deferred grazing in plots 1 and plot 2. The animals will only be restricted to plot 3, and while they are feeding on plot 4, there will be deferred grazing in plots 1, 2, and 3, which means the animals will be restricted from feeding on plots 1, 2, and 3, and they'll be allowed restricted only to plot 4 for grazing. Then we have fencing, that is use of enclosure. This is the partitioning of the pasture into sections called paddocks, which is to facilitate rotation and deferred grazing. Then we have another maintenance practice is irrigation. During the dry season, artificial application of water ensures the luxuriant growth and the availability of livestock feed throughout the year. Then the next practice is weed control, which should be removed at all times so as to prevent competition for nutrients. And then the next management practice is pest and disease control. Occasional spraying of insecticide and fungicide should be done during the rest period of the deferred grazing to help control pests and diseases. And with this, we'll come to the end of crop husbandry. Now we'll be looking at our revision question. The first question says that Synodon Plectogo starchus is commonly known as A. Giant star grass, B. Elephant grass, C. Spear grass, D. Bahama grass, E. Carpet grass. The answer is A. Giant star grass. Then the next question is that the planting depth of rice grains is about A. 2 to 4 centimeter, B. 6 to 8 centimeter, C. 8 to 10 centimeter, D. 10 to 12 centimeter, E. 12 to 14 centimeter. The answer is A. 2 to 4 centimeter. Then the third question, control of weeds or forage crops can be carried out by the following method, except A. Cutting, B. burning, C. use of herbicide, D. biological control, E. grazing. The answer is burning. That is, if you have to control weed, you can control weed by cutting, using of herbicide, biological control, grazing, but burning. If you are going to burn, that means you are going to burn the forage crop also. So burning is not being used to control weeds or forage crops. Then the next question says that which of the following is a shade loving crop? A. Oil palm, B. Citrus, C. Coconut, D. Cocoa, E. Pineapple. The answer is D, which is cocoa. Cocoa is a shade loving crop. Then the next question says that parboiling is carried out in the processing of rice in order to A. decrease the amount of waste product, B. improve the taste of rice, C. facilitate the polishing of rice, D. reduce the percentage of leakage, E. increase the protein content of rice. The answer is D. Parboiling is carried out in the processing of rice in order to reduce percentage of leakage. Then the last question says that forage which has been caught fresh and preserved in silo or pit is referred to as A. B. silage, C. Illage, D. soilage, E. compost. The answer is B. silage. And now we come to the end of the fourth theme, which is the last thing for SS1, which is crop husbandry, and with that we come to the end of the SS1 series.